to Women in Cloud, the Digital Summit 2021. I'm Patty Dobrovolsky with Up Your Creative Genius, and I'll be your MC for the morning session. I am so excited to be here. Isn't this amazing? Isn't it beautiful? Can you believe the floor plan with the flags? I had to replicate it up here on my own screen. I'm so happy to see all of you, and welcome, welcome, welcome. For those of you who this is your first time coming to Women in Cloud, welcome. You just stepped on really into a rocket ship that's gonna blast off, because in this environment, there's going to be almost 2,000 of you here. So this is your opportunity to grab hold and get involved. So here's a couple of ways you can do it. You want to engage with people. You want to put some calls out in the chat with the emojis. Connect down at the bottom of your screen when we're in the floor plan. If you scroll up, you'll see the networking lounge down there, and you want to go there and engage with other people, meet them. We are a community, and it's essential that you bring what you have to contribute and that you receive what everyone else has. That's what is so beautiful about Women in Cloud. Here's our mission, really, is Women in Cloud. It is the most amazing thing. It's a community-led economic development organization taking action to generate over 1 billion in net new global economic access for women entrepreneurs by 2030 through partnerships with people like you, corporations, community leaders, and policymakers. This is an accelerator, a cloud accelerator. It's a solution marketplace, and we are all part of this collective together. So I want you to really use your social networks today to broadcast about this. Women in Cloud, hashtag Women in Cloud, hashtag She Soars. And we also have provided you with this Digital Summit workbook. So you can download this, and in there is a run a show. It's got every place for you to capture everything you learned from the whole experience. It is going to be an amazing day, and I just cannot wait to see what you walk away with, because every time we come here, it's so cool. Let's give a big shout out, everybody, to our sponsors. We had some amazing sponsorship, and look at all of them there. That is like, these are people that are committed to lifting women up and really creating economic access for everyone. This is what equity is about. And this year is about that. We know in the US, when we had a woman step up there and take that oath, you know, times are changing now. So here's one thing I'd like to ask you, and if you would, put something in the chat. I want you to show me, what is one thing you want to do before you hit the next decade? Put it in the chat. I can't wait to see what you say. Hello from Toronto. Hello, everybody. Publish a book. Yes. Travel more. Oh, gosh, yes. A woman's place in the house in the city. Yes. Okay, good. I love it. What else? What else? More readers. Pop a bottle of champagne with some friends. Yes, definitely. Launch your product. Do it. Run something. Travel to Australia. Yes. Write a second book. All right. You're ready. Yes. I love it. Further global impact. All of these things are possible for you. And I want you to know that today we have such an amazing agenda. We're going to have a senator. We're going to have a former prime minister from Canada. Oh my gosh, that is so incredible. And the power panel that we have, the panelists are amazing. They're going to talk about leadership and all about access. They're going to help you to grab hold of new things through all the various experiences you're going to be able to have here with mentorship and networking. We're also going to see the graduates from the Cloud Accelerator as well as the current accelerators. You want to see these women, and you want to help them to grow their business and let it explode. That's what that rocket ship is about. So let's get this party started. Let's get going. I would love to see if we can bring Karen Facio onto the stage. I just want to say, Karen Facio is an amazing woman. She's been at Microsoft for 22 years. She leads strategy for digital marketing engagement with the partner program. She's worked all throughout that ecosystem, she's had so many marketing roles. Like the list would fill this entire screen. She's done global tech readiness, licensing, sales, audience and channel marketing. She's the co-founder and steering chair for Women in Cloud. And she's been paving the way for women in technology for a long time. She is a big advocate for women and getting opportunity open for them to enable women's business success. So please help me welcome Karen Fazio. Let's go. Yay, come on in here, Karen. Woo! Woo! Karen.
Patty, I just adore you. You are amazing. Thank you. And thank you, everyone. I mean, look at us. See all of that movement in the lounge, all of those sort of colors popping up as we were starting this whole summit together. I mean, and I think it's just a wonderful, incredible statement of the strength and shine of this community to connect here today during some of the most challenging times of our lives. And challenges, yeah, we know them. But let's not focus on that today, right? Let's look at you instead. I want you to, if we could pull up the image of the group here. We have a tapestry, right, of faces. I want you to imagine the voices, the shared knowledge, the crisscross of connections that we create together. And I hope that when you see all of us together in this composite, that you truly count yourself among this mighty community. We have, actual images of people in our community in this photo. And for those of you with spectacular eyesight, you might even see your gorgeous face in there. For me, I see light. I see this resonating aura, this energy. I see infinite possibilities, fierce grit, and empowerment that goes beyond measure. We are abundant and we are generous. We're generous with our time, our connections, our investments. We're generous with our wisdom, with our words of support, and our applause for when we see each other succeed. We don't operate from scarcity. Generosity is the heart of Women in Cloud. And look at what generosity can power. It's vibrant, it's juicy, and it is fire. It's what fuels our collective power. In a time where, understandably, we could have played small, we could have retracted from fear of the unknown and hold ourselves back for safety, we chose instead to see things in a different light. We're playing bigger. We're expansive. We're accelerating. This is what a hive of highly committed women and allies are capable of. You are the juice. You make this possible. Strong collective power, that's what this is, and it is beautiful. So where did this theme and mission for this year's summit come from? Well, like any movement, we don't stand still, right? We started this journey with this concept of collective access. Like, could we grant each other connections to programming and services, to our expanded network, to each other, and create a real force? I think that happened. And then we moved into this next realm of collective action, right? Where we inspired thousands of us to take action, demand commitments, hold each other accountable, hold others accountable, and insist on results that start to spin the wheels forward for women to capture $1 billion opportunity. Which brings us to today, where access and action multiplied by a purpose-driven community culminate in collective power. Collective power is about enabling a community of communities. It's exponential and infinite, expansive and atomic. It's the alchemy of business leaders, influencers, public officials, policymakers, community leaders, learners, doers, believers that collectively see our dreams made real. That dream, that North Star, we reach it together. We activate this community to make it happen. Today, we invite you to leverage the collective power of this community to reach your next level goals. We will see collective change for inclusion, for representation, gender equity, and economic access because we are a motivated alliance, united to that purpose. Can you see that North Star? Know that being here today just made that star a little closer to catch. So thank you for showing up for this event, yes, but for yourselves. This is your time to invest in you. The more you give to yourself, that you are generous with yourself, the more you can give to purpose, that you can drive your dreams and you can contribute to others. Stronger me, stronger we, right? We are so very grateful to you, our brave women founders, our proud advocates and sponsors, and our bold, vibrant community. Welcome to your Women in Cloud Summit. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Karen. I just love that. Okay, now let's bring up the co-founder, Chaitra Vidulapalli. She's a recognized business leader working passionately for digital equity and access for economic prosperity for all. You know this woman. She's the CMO, president of Women in Cloud. She's the co-founder of Mela. She sat on many boards. She's an author, a speaker, a leader, TEDx speaker, the UN speaker. I was there with her. It was amazing. And a top 100 small business influencer. She is powerful. She really is the fire behind this. So she and Karen, let's give Chaitra a beautiful round of applause. Thank you, Chai. Here we go. Woo! Come on up.
Thank you, Patty. Thank you. A lot of hearts for you. And I adore you. And I inspire the entire community. So first is, wow, we are here together. 2020 was a year to remember. Last year, we stood together, surrounded by a room full of powerful and inspiring people, and pledged to unlock economic access to enterprise opportunities for female entrepreneurs, while we also committed to build a collective global network of 100 million women. I'm thrilled to share with you that we have accomplished both. Together, we won. I stand before you sharing this experience with over 2,000 attendees, 250 tech founders, and 87 global companies from 17 countries around the world committed to economic access and gender inclusivity, making this as one of the most powerful communities for women in technology on the planet. In addition, Women in Cloud entrepreneurs have not only landed enterprise accounts, they also have seen growth anywhere from 25% to 500% this year, and went on to create the tech jobs in the midst of a pandemic. This is incredible. Despite the health and social crisis we all faced, Women in Cloud as a network grew stronger, deeply connected, and achieved higher heights to contribute to economic development in the technology industry. In a time when we all held back, we actually accelerated forward. So here are some wins for the 2020. Our cloud accelerator, secret to success was the in-person meetings, networking, and ideation. So when the pandemic broke, the system was completely disrupted. Within weeks, we had to transform into a virtual accelerator with the same standard and mission in focus. The engagement and the results were tremendous, which helped us to achieve the movement. We supported over 33 companies over 9 months in their journey to co-build, co-sell, and co-market with and the entire channel ecosystem. Companies from Saskatchewan to Netherlands to India were all able to participate, making it a global experience. When the pandemic hit in March, women struggled to make ends meet and stay committed to the economic access mission. So we needed to understand the revenue impact before we could innovate. Hence, we invested in research. Based on the COVID-19 impact survey report, the average loss of opportunity over the next 3 years could be $5 million or more per company. So this led us to rethink and also reinvest tangible solutions to advance the movement while highlighting the short-term and long-term effects on women founders in the technology ecosystem. So our innovations included a strategic board of advisors comprising of industry thought leaders to transform and address the challenges in hand. We also embarked on strategic partnership to build a collective network of 100 million women and helped each other to sustain as strong communities by sharing resources as well as innovation. Further, we also digitally transformed our community events to drive economic development through curated virtual networking. So what does this mean to us at the summit? First, it grants access to expanding your networks and partnership. Second, it elevates the voices for legislation and policies in our industry. And third, it sparks personal and community empowerment to support one another and grow our network to become one of the most influential communities possible. And you know what? We are doing it, and we continue to do that. Now, here we are in 2021. We continue to contribute to the UN Goals 2030 by investing in innovation and partnership to reduce the economic gap. Economic access and gender equity will be our key focus for the next decade. With access, preparedness, we believe women can be empowered to achieve their economic goals. In 2021, we will concentrate our resources to create 100 million in new opportunities, and we are looking at 3 ways to do it. We will be investing in strategic partnerships with Fortune 100 companies to make their supplier network diverse and secure invitations for female tech founders to be part of the digital transformation initiatives. In addition, today we are also launching Women in Cloud Solution Marketplace that features 30 enterprise-ready solutions, and each of you have the power to partner, pilot, or refer customers to them easily. And to further focus on opportunity creation, we aspire to drive 8,000 business development connections through community events and activation. Additionally, we'll also commission research to build strategic coalitions with cross-sector leaders to develop policies around AI ethics and supplier diversity. We have witnessed a significant departure of women from the workforce in 2020. Hence, we are reinforcing our commitment at WIC to provide access, resources, and community needed to support the initiatives to bring women back into workforce through confidence-building solutions such as Rock Your Pitch, micro-internship, and digital capstone projects. As a community, we last year, and what an exciting year we are looking forward to in 2021. I believe that it will be nothing short of transformative. So I leave you with this thought. Look at change leaders, thought leaders who are present with us, and see the people you can create impact on and with. Collaborate, connect, and transform yourself, because infinite opportunities are created when you are dedicated to serving people daily. We are a community of collective power and infinite access. What I ask of you is to be present, enjoy the summit. We encourage you to step out of your comfort zone, meet new leaders, entrepreneurs, and grow your network. Reach out to our youth in attendance and mentor them. They are our future. This is your community, your peers, your leaders, and your opportunity to make the most out of it. My heartfelt gratitude to all of you, my entire Women in Cloud team, the board of advisors, the Women in Cloud entrepreneurs, sponsors, and community partners for giving us the courage, motivation, and strength to host the Women in Cloud Digital Summit. So thank you. So now it's my honor to introduce Gretchen O'Hara, co-founder of Women in Cloud and Vice President of AI and Sustainability Strategy at Microsoft. In her role at Microsoft, Gretchen is building a path for Microsoft's US acceleration of its artificial intelligence, cloud, and sustainability to become carbon negative by 2030. She believes AI and sustainability will transform our world. Her mission is to live every moment with passion and compassion and leave a legacy of global tech success that stands the test of time. She has prepared a special message to welcome the community and welcome to Women in Cloud Digital Summit 2021. Thank you.
Welcome to everyone. 2020 has been an incredible challenge for all of us. But what continues to be of utmost importance to our industry and the mission of Women in Cloud is the opportunity to create economic access and gender equality in the technology marketplace for all of us. This year, our theme is focused on collective power. When I think of collective power, I immediately embrace the achievements we see with our strategic partners, both public and private partnerships, scalable collaborations, and the fact that every voice has this chance to be represented. We are blessed to be here building powerful ecosystems that create transformative change right here at this very moment, but it doesn't end with the summit. Collective power also comes from raising money and funds through partnerships that allow us to see outward. These pivotal, critical times where everyone needs to step up, step into their power, and join this movement, which continues to thrive through an expanding network and a strong dedication to the contributing of the UN goals. It's just truly amazing what I've seen this community do in really such a short period of time, including challenging ourselves to build a network of 1 million leaders who are the future of our industry. And even amidst COVID, we were able to create lasting global partnerships, collaborations that are paving the way for future leaders to grant even more economic access and opportunity and break down the gender divide. At this year's summit, all of you have been able to harness the power of your own North Star goals while supporting each other to build a voice for collective power in the years to come. And we've really built this collective voice around removing any bias that are part of AI development, creating a more inclusive economy than ever before. This is 2021. A year where I'm asking all of us as partners, as leaders, as companies, and as allies to come together well beyond the summit, to pledge for this entire year that we can all support one another for achieving the greatest industry successes. We're in the business of creating impact through sustainability, including the commitment Microsoft has made this year, creating long-term value. We are so glad you are here. We hope you will get a lot out of the next 3 days. I could be more proud and welcome. Thank you very much.
Excellent words from Gretchen. I'm so glad she made the time to share those her thoughts with us today. It is my pleasure to introduce Washington State Senator Patty Kuderer. Patty is a mom, attorney, and longtime community advocate. She was appointed to the Washington House of Representatives in September of 2015. In January 2017, Patty was again unanimously appointed by the King County Council to fill the vacant Senate seat in the 48th Legislative District. She now represents her constituents as their first female state senator. Woo-hoo! Selected by her colleagues to chair the new Senate Housing Stability and Affordability Committee, Kuderer is eager to bring new diverse voices to the table to tackle the statewide crisis of housing instability. In addition to her role as chair, Kuderer serves as the Senate's Assistant Majority Floor Leader, as Vice Chair of the State Government, Tribal Relations and Elections, and as a member of the Law and Justice Rules Committee. During her tenure in the Senate, she has been a champion for voting rights and access, greater representation for women, common sense gun legislation, and reforming our healthcare system. She has been a deep advocate for women in cloud, and we're so proud to have her here today to share her message. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for inviting me to be part of this wonderful summit again this year. I wish we could all be together in person to feel the wonderful energy and see all of your faces, because it really has been such a pleasure to be part of your program for the past 2 years. It's a great honor to be associated with an organization like Women in Cloud and supporting this powerful community of change makers, entrepreneurs, and transformational women leaders. The 2021 Washington State Legislative Session kicked off a couple weeks ago. Due to the pandemic, we are operating in a mostly remote environment. This is an unprecedented time, to say the least. For the 3rd year in a row, I had the great honor of sponsoring a Senate resolution in recognition of the great work being done by Women in Cloud. The resolution process is a great way to highlight extraordinary achievements by individuals and organizations in Washington State. And Women in Cloud most certainly qualifies as an organization with a track record of extraordinary achievements. This year, we are honoring the leaders and embracing the opportunities that come with standing together in collective power. That includes the power of collaboration at the government level with policymakers, state legislatures, and community leaders who help govern the future of our cities and the industries that drive economic growth, especially in these very challenging times. Even in the midst of a COVID-19 pandemic, it's important to acknowledge the accomplishments and huge wins we have all achieved through community virtual events and networking through corporate collaborations that even this pandemic couldn't stop, including some highlights, like providing access to buyers through the Cloud Exec Connect, taking 2 cloud accelerators digital to bring access to more leaders, becoming global in India, Canada, Africa, and the Middle East through global partnerships, and making this entire 2021 summit 100% virtual, giving access to all participants and speakers through an integrated 3-day experience. And all of this happened during one of the most trying times in recent history. But it doesn't stop there. In working with the WIC executive team and its board of advisors, I wanted to engage in a new kind of dialogue that can help change the future tech landscape with regards to trends that will continue to become guiding principles for product innovation and industry growth. This naturally brought up the core topic of artificial intelligence, or as you all refer to it, AI, and how there is still so much work that needs to be done in this space, much of which is still coming to light now. A 2018 report by the World Economic Forum showed nearly 80% of the global professionals working in AI are men. AI is already having a significant impact on the tech industry, and that impact is only going to grow bigger. AI is one of those fields where it's critically important to get it right the first time around. So recognizing and accounting for biases will be a key in the formation of public policy in this arena. And as we speak, AI is still being written and coded by humans who inherently possess biases that can contribute to gender and minority inequity and a lack of inclusionary practices. But right now, there is no written legislation to protect us from such setbacks, which is why I wanted to be able to start a new conversation here today. I propose that state legislatures and policymakers work directly with the WIC community to change that narrative. The legislature has a role to play in advancements in AI. There's been some healthy debate in recent years about how best to go about forming policy around this constantly evolving field. And I'm sure most of you are familiar with the deep fake videos that can now digitally produce extremely convincing videos using the likeness of real people. My colleague, Senator David Frocht, worked on legislation last year that would require disclosure when that kind of technology is used in political campaigns. And the legislature is once again working to try to become the second state in the nation to adopt a comprehensive data privacy bill. But that has been and will continue to be a heavy lift. In working with the executive team, we have come up with a plan to create an AI ethics coalition to provide recommendations for policymakers to amend and change the way AI is integrated and procured by our businesses across the globe. WIC and this new task force can provide data and education to the legislative lawmakers that have the power to change the way in which AI will be designed for generations to come. Collective power begins with a simple idea, an audacious vision, and a group of diligent change agents who seek to see our world in a different place and leave it better than it was before. Collective power beings are right here with me, with you, with all of us, and we have the power to create collective change. You know how powerful your voice already is by being a part of Women in Cloud. You make a difference in your industries, in your communities every day. I know a lot of people think their voices don't matter, but they do. And I can assure you, your elected leaders do get your messages and they do listen. So to put it bluntly, your voice matters, so use it often. And thank you again for this opportunity to celebrate Women in Cloud and the great work all of you are doing to bring equity into the tech field. Together, we're paving the way towards success for the next generation of women. Please join me in continuing to support the bold and courageous mission of WIC and to become a part of the amazing groundswell of opportunities that lie ahead. 2020 may have knocked us down, but 2021 has us getting right back up and continue to do the work. Welcome to the Women in Cloud Digital Summit 2021, and thank you for letting me continue to be a part of this great movement that just keeps getting better and stronger every year.
Now, if you don't get inspired by leadership like that, I mean, that's what keeps helping our communities elevate our impact and understand our resonance beyond just our collective people within our own community. We have resonance in our local communities and all the people that we work with day to day. But we have another inspiring speaker I'd love to introduce you to. I'm so very pleased to introduce Gabriela Schuster, Corporate Vice President of the Microsoft Commercial Partner Team, leading a global portfolio of channel partners that has influenced over $1 trillion in ecosystem revenues through Microsoft's fastest growing ecosystem. She has over 30 years of leadership in digital and cloud transformation roles, driving strategy and execution spanning all aspects of business model and product development, launch, marketing, sales, and partner development. As a builder and change agent, she specializes in building new businesses. Last fall, she was awarded the Athena Global Leadership Award for her advocacy on behalf of women in IT. She is also a founding sponsor of both Women in Cloud and Women in Tech Network. She sits on the board of directors for Chinasoft International and the University of Washington Bothell. She most recently gave a TEDx talk on gender equity, and we encourage you to check it out if you haven't already. Gabriela is a dear friend, an inspiring leader, and please join me in welcoming her today.
Thank you, Karen. I am thrilled to be here today and excited that all of you have decided to join us too. You know, as everyone has said, a lot has changed since we were together a year ago in person. When we were together last year, we had no idea what was about to happen to all of us. The COVID-19 pandemic has just changed our lives. In the US, we saw riots over continued racial injustice. We've witnessed violence over a contested election, creating even more instability. And now, with a vaccine making its way out there, there's some light. It's been a challenging year, to say the least, ups and downs. And the impacts of it all will, no doubt, be felt for years to come by many of us. One of the many impacts is that what it means for this movement, we all feel so passionate about, the advancement and the access for women in the workforce. According to a new report from McKinsey & Company, women, especially women of color, are more likely to have been laid off or furloughed since the pandemic began, stalling their careers and jeopardizing their financial security. Those who have stayed in their jobs have suffered through a lack of flexibility at work, and they feel like they're always on, often agonizing about how to balance caregiving responsibilities at home with the added pressures at work, and worrying that they'll be criticized or fired if they choose family over work. According to that same report, these added pressures have 1 in 4 women considering scaling back or leaving the workforce entirely. Now, that is a depressing statistic. In the technology industry, we've been talking about the uphill battle for years and how to reach gender equity in tech. As I said in my recent TEDx talk back in November, when I started in the industry in 1991, 36% of the computing workforce was women. In 2019, that number had fallen to 27%, and it's going in the wrong direction. And it's really about to get much worse, not just because of the pandemic. Digital transformation, as wonderful as it is for all of us, especially who are lucky enough to be in the tech industry, is disproportionately displacing jobs held by women and people of color. And it leads to this trifecta of badness. By percentage, there are fewer women entering technology, there are more jobs in technology, and more women are being displaced by the technology. This is really a recipe for disaster. I thought by the time my daughter was 21 and entering the workforce, that things would be dramatically better for her than they were for me. And she's 21 now, and they're not. So I want to ask you, how many of you have ever felt invisible? Like when you speak up, no one is listening. I have that experience frequently, and I call it my invisibility cloak. Now, I know in Harry Potter, that's supposed to be a power metaphor, but for me, totally disempowering. It's my mission to help you all remove your invisibility cloaks and be seen and heard. In my TED Talk, I laid out a framework for what we can do together to bring gender equity to the technology industry, to help women be seen and be heard. Make no mistake, it will take every person on this call and everyone in your network to bring the kind of change that's needed. We literally need 8 million women in technology in order to reach gender equity, and we are only halfway there. 8 million. So if you're a man, I urge you to step into leadership and to allyship. And if you're a woman, to do the same. We need everyone to take intentional steps to become agents of change. And I have 4 ways that you can make a difference. 4 things that you can do to become agents of change. Connect. This is about creating access, connecting deeply into your network, giving women access to you and to each other through your connections. Being a part of the Women in Cloud community is a great start. But ask yourself, are you making the most out of these connections? Could you bring more into the community? The answer is yes. You can always do more, and we need to do more. Outreach. This is about adjusting your recruiting practices, your hiring practices, your supplier selection practices. When you have an open job, do you screen out candidates or do you screen in candidates for diversity? I know in my own organization, when I required my team to look beyond hiring for expediency and hiring the people that they knew, and required them to have a diverse candidate pool that incorporated people from outside of the company, the gender diversity in my team changed dramatically. Mentor. I would not be where I am today without the many men and women throughout my career who have mentored me, who have helped me learn from their successes, learn from their failures, help me avoid those tripwires and unwritten rules of business, and lifted me up when my confidence waned. When you mentor, you blaze a trail for others to follow. And finally, and I think most importantly, empower. Empowerment is about being inclusive, about promoting women, sponsoring women, bringing women onto your board of directors. Studies show that leadership teams with diverse representation are 19% higher in profitability. They have higher levels of customer satisfaction and higher levels of employee engagement. So this isn't just good for society, it's good for business. And empowering people is easier than you might think. It's about including them in the discussion. It's about seeing them, hearing them, enabling them to be visible, making them visible. This month, I'm writing a series of articles on LinkedIn about each of these actions that we can all take to make a difference. I would love for you to check them out and share them with your networks. Remember, 8 million. I also have links to the TEDx talk. So please help spread the word and connect, reach out, mentor, and empower women in every chance that you have. With the challenges that we face, it takes collective power to make a difference. And that's what Women in Cloud is all about, creating access and collectively clearing a path for women in technology. When the impacts of COVID started taking hold, I was talking with Chaitra, and it became clear that Women in Cloud could do more for this community. Based on a recent COVID-19 impact survey of Women in Cloud members commissioned by WIC, the average loss of opportunity for the next 3 years could be as high as $5 million or more per company. This community needs more access to enterprise customers and more go-to-market benefits. The Cloud Accelerator gets you prepared, but what we need to do is to keep the same level of support and resources accessible throughout the year. We need to do more when it comes to impacting legislation that creates solutions and access for women in the marketplace. And we appreciate Senator Kerr and her support. And I am so excited to announce today this new Women in Cloud Collective, an interconnected, influential group of women tech founders looking to drive digital transformation in the mid to enterprise market. Through this collective, you can make your solutions and services stand out to gain more brand exposure in the enterprise market and access to more customers. This is really exciting. And we're looking for support from business leaders and corporations to pledge their support by underwriting sponsorships to help organizations grow their business in the enterprise market. This is how we scale through each other and create access through collective power. And that's something our next speaker knows a lot about. As Canada's first and only female Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Kim Campbell has had a full life of firsts. From the age of 16, when she became the first female student body president of her high school, and then 30 years later as the 19th Prime Minister of Canada, Ms. Campbell has spent much of her life breaking barriers for women. She served at all 3 levels of government in Canada. After leaving politics, she served as the Canadian Consul General in Los Angeles and then taught at the Harvard Kennedy School, after which she became an international leader of leaders with organizations such as the International Women's Forum and the Club de Madrid. Holding audiences since the age of 10, Ms. Campbell speaks widely on issues related to leadership, international politics, democratization, climate change, gender, and Canadian-American relations, addressing audiences. She has spoken on every continent except maybe Antarctica. In the spring of 2020, Ms. Campbell joined the Women in Cloud community as an ambassador of our inaugural Empower Her Access campaign. Ms. Campbell, we are honored and delighted for you to be here with us today to open the Women in Cloud Summit. You have an incredible story. You have been a trailblazer and you have broken glass in so many ways. As the first and only female Minister of Defense of Canada, the first and only female Prime Minister of Canada, and sitting with former heads of state and members of the International Women's Forum. You have overcome so many barriers, and I believe sharing stories like yours is what will help us change the narrative. So I wanted to ask you to maybe give a little bit of your background and share your own story in your own words.
Well, thank you very much, Gabriella. And I'm very conscious that I'm in the company of extraordinary women. And there are so many extraordinary women now that it isn't even a novelty. And somebody sent me a little WhatsApp video today with all of the women who are currently either president or prime minister of countries in the world. And there are a lot of them. And I'm part of an organization, the Council of Women World Leaders, which brings together current and former women presidents and prime ministers. So I would say that in the course of my life, things have really changed. But I started out, as a young girl, my parents were both in uniform in World War II. And so although I was born after the war, it was a big deal, and, TV and movies and whatever. And I wanted to be part of some process that would make that not happen again. And when I was a teenager, I wanted to be the first woman Secretary General of the UN. So I always wanted to live a life that was bigger than just my own life. And it was only when I got into my 20s that I thought maybe of going into politics, although I'd been student council president of my high school, but that isn't really politics in the same way. But I think what's so interesting is that when I was a young woman, there weren't a lot of female role models. And it was easy for people to say, well, Kim, you're smart, but where's the female Einstein? Where's the female Mozart, et cetera? So to make you feel that if you were, quote, smart, you were an anomaly. That is just rubbish. It was rubbish then. And one of the things that's been important to me is the idea of restoring the narrative that women belong in all of these places, because it's nothing new that women are smart. The problem is when you're not one of the expected people, it's easy to dismiss you as an anomaly. So people don't have to keep telling your stories. But there are female Einsteins. In fact, Einstein himself recognized that Emmy Noether, the physicist Emmy Noether, was one of the most important people, was certainly the most important woman, but one of the most important people in physics. So women, mathematicians and physicists and astronomers and chemists and all of these kinds of things. The first novel was written by a woman. Women have been trailblazers in so many ways. And what makes me happy now is that as we tell these stories, and we need to keep telling them, and we need to change the narrative, but it means it gives women today answers. It gives them a context in which they can say, I'm smart, and there aren't enough people like me in leadership or in this organization, but there's plenty of women like me who have established the capacity of women to do these jobs. I'm not an exception to the rule. I'm one of many smart women. And that's one of the changes, I think, in my own life that really gratifies me. And of course, it's been accompanied by changes in law and policy too, which have helped to reduce discrimination, not eliminated it by any means, but have also assisted the aspirations of women.
Yeah, I think that it's because of the trailblazing that you did in being one of the first that has opened the door for so many more women to enter into such prestigious realms of politics. And so how does that make you feel, like knowing that I agree with you, like people just we need to be out there in mass, because that eliminates the you're special and creates it makes it okay for everyone to pursue. How does it make you feel, though, to have been one of those trailblazers that has opened the doors for so many of us?
Well, it's interesting. When I became prime minister, I took over the leadership of my party at a time we had to call an election very soon. My predecessor was the most unpopular prime minister in the history of Canadian polling, although he's, time is kinder to people. His reputation is actually much better now. In the summer of 1993, Gallup said that I had the highest approval rating for a prime minister in 30 years. So clearly Canadians were excited about having a woman prime minister. But I was not able, there were a whole lot of factors that, the new parties that had appeared and things that had eroded our vote. So I wasn't able to win the general election. But in the summer of 93, when I was prime minister, that period of time, it clearly meant a lot not just to women, but to men also. I remember the night that I was elected leader of the party, one of my supporters, a man, I mean, he had tears coming down his cheeks saying, this is for my daughter. People understood what that meant. And so it was a great honor for me, a privilege to be the vehicle that changed people's sense of what was possible. And years later, when I went to create a leadership college at the University of Alberta, it was so interesting for me how many women said to me, you know, I can still remember the day you became prime minister, the night you were elected leader, and what it meant. And I used to have your picture on my wall, and it just really changed my sense of what I could be. So that is a great and wonderful experience. But the thing is that there are so many brilliant women, and it's great for me that I was able to do that. But as I've gotten older, I realized, you know, there are plenty more at home like me. I mean, there's a lot of brilliant women around, and many more that are smarter and more accomplished than I am. So I'm really happy to have been a tile in the mosaic of progress. But I'm by no means an anomaly. And that is also very heartwarming, the opportunity that I've had to meet other women who in so many fields, in so many ways, and not just women in terms of professional competence, but I've done a lot of work since I had political retirement thrust upon me by the Canadian electorate. I've done a lot of work around the world promoting democracy. And I've been in countries, you know, where I've met women who are under very difficult circumstances, in countries where they're really struggling to create democratic institutions and get recognized. Women who are so strong and so resourceful. I'm honored to be able to support them. And they often say that they're encouraged that somebody like me, who was prime minister of a developed country, feels that what they're doing is important. But I'm honored to have the chance to support them, because whatever they're going through is so much harder than what I had to go through. So the reservoir of female strength around the world is really wonderful. And when it gets a chance to flourish and express itself, it's remarkable and great for the world, frankly.
I agree 100% with you. And as a matter of fact, in Melinda Gates' book, Moment of Lift, she talks about that. She talks about how when you have a society and you're able to uplift the women in that society and create a stronger stage of equity, that many of the ills of that society actually disappear or mitigate. So, you know, I'm curious, in all of your travels, what do you think it will take for us to truly break through on this narrative? Because while I think we've made progress, we're hardly there.
Well, you know, I think we have to take power more seriously. You know, power is real, and somebody's going to have it. And I always say to women, if you would exercise it ethically and in the national interest, why shouldn't it be you? But women often say, oh, I don't want to talk about power. Ooh, you know, that's the sort of, you know, men are interested in power. Well, power exists, and somebody's going to have their hands on the levers. So who those hands are important. And, you know, your opening remarks by Senator Patty Cooder, I thought were wonderful, because what she demonstrated was the difference it makes in having the lived experience of women at the table when people are making policy. There was a time when the issues of women and families and children were considered kind of subsidiary issues, you know, women's issues. And the men would say, well, let us solve the serious problems. And then when we've solved the serious problems, we'll focus on women's issues. So we now know that women's issues are fundamental. They're at the heart. As you were talking about Melinda Gates, the Pew Research Organization, which does all this amazing research around the world on social and political developments, they concluded a number of years ago that the best indicator of the social, political, and economic development of a country was the status of its women. It's like the women are the canary in the mine. If you're looking at a country where women do not have legal status, where they can't own property, where they don't have the ability to get an education, all these things, you're looking at a country in trouble. You're looking at, you know, don't invest there, or except if you're investing in the education of women. I mean, in other words, these are countries that are really in trouble, because it is so important for women to be playing their role. And when they're in politics, and even it's been found that even one woman on a bench can change the culture of a court. You know, because there's so many ways in which the reality of life as women live it, if it's not expressed, men, you know, with the best of intentions, just get it wrong. And in many ways, some of our best allies are men. There are a lot of men who do get it. And I always say the advancement of women isn't men versus women. It's the men and women who get it, working to persuade the men and women who don't get it. And many men do get it, and are keen. Well, I mean, it was a male prime minister who made me the first female minister of justice in Canada. And that was an enormously important position for me, aside from setting the stage for me to ultimately become leader. I convened a national symposium on women law and the administration of justice that was kind of revolutionary in terms of changing the agenda of criminal law reform. So, the men who are our allies, have to be loved and cherished, and the men who are not need to be enlightened.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I mean, it is about bringing out the ally in all of us and having us step into that allyship and step into leadership to support each other and build community and really uplift everyone in the society, because diversity does bring the better access and better outcomes. So organizations like the Women in Cloud are helping to change that perception. Could you talk a little bit about the importance in your mind of community and creating access and opportunity for women?
Well, I think it's really important, and I think that what Women in Cloud is doing is really vital. And I think it was Senator Cooter or somebody else yesterday at the opening said that we're talking about, oh no, it was somebody else talking about artificial intelligence, that 80% of the people working in tech and artificial intelligence are men. And so many of these, so there's two things. One is the ability of women to have careers and to not have to make their way in environments that are very kind of macho and hostile. And what's so interesting is that those cultures are usually poised for disaster. I mean, you look at what's happening in social media and the total oblivion of many of our social media platforms to the absolute chaos they are creating for democracy. These are people, who, I've often said the moral sensibility of war criminals. I mean, these are people who don't, hello, democracy is a very fragile and precious thing, and you are playing a big role in it, and you need to think about what that means for your society, for the health of its institutions, and for what it means to the lives of individual people. And it's not that women are necessarily, more morally adept than men. It's just that we aren't privileged in the same way, and we bring a different perspective, and we have different realities that we're comfortable with, and we also have different kind of culture when we're together. We know that when you have a male-dominated institution, you often have a kind of a groupthink. If you read the story about the collapse of Lehman Brothers, I remember in 2008 there was a wonderful book about it. And it was just the absolute classic organization designed for bad decision making. Very male dominated, very macho, very kind of gung ho, and a CEO who didn't want to hear from anybody. And the tragedy is that when it collapsed, all of these people at Lehman Brothers who were encouraged to spend their bonuses on Lehman Brothers stock so that they could rise and share the benefits of Lehman Brothers profitability, they wound up with nothing. And so when Christine Lagarde said at the meeting of Davos that followed the 2008 crisis, when she said, that if Lehman Brothers had been Lehman Sisters, it might have been a different situation. But optimally, would be Lehman Brothers and Sisters. In other words, with women, people say, well, we're not such risk takers. Well, I think it's not that women don't take risks. Women take risks every time they go out of doors. I think people totally fail to appreciate the extent to which risk and threat and strategic vigilance is built into women's lives. But sadly, that's the way we live. But what it means is that we take risks, calculated risks. We take considered risks. We don't take risks based on showing, as some kind of quality, a machismo or some kind of quality that in fact can lead us down the garden path. And so when you have a combination of outlooks, and that's why this diversity, the cognitive diversity is so important in institutions, you get that balance. But I resent it when people say women aren't risk takers. Our whole lives we're taking risks. The fact that we get up and go out the door in the morning, we have to assess those risks. But the stakes are very high for women. And they're also high in organizations, that if women don't succeed, they don't get second chances in the same way. And we have to stand up for one another and allow one another. Women have to support one another to make the mistakes that are an integral part of learning and growing. So I just think that what Women in Cloud is doing is so important, because you're building connections and you're supporting each other. And I mean, the excellence of all of you, I mean, it's just so self-evident. I mean, you don't even have to prove it anymore. I mean, that's there. But you need that solidarity, and you need that support that enables you to take the risks that you'd like to take without having them be so high stakes that you pull back from sticking your neck out, because you don't think that if it doesn't work out, you'll get a second chance. Women need to have the same support that men get. And I think by creating that network, you can, but also bringing the perspective of the lived experience of women. And all women aren't alike. I mean, women, we lead such different lives. For me, my concern about women has been the portal through which I've come to be much more, I think, enlightened about issues of race and other forms of exclusion, because I can reason by analogy to what people experience when they don't get the benefit of the doubt, when they're seen to not belong, and that they constantly every morning they have to get up and prove themselves again. So I think as women, we have the capacity to bring our experience to make a much more humane world, that the result of which is to liberate the creativity and quality that so many people can contribute to our shared lives, and that in many cases are just are stifled because of the society that we have.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I have felt in many situations that it's just unfair, I think, as women, that in every conversation we have to reprove our credibility in order to be heard and in order to be seen. And to your point, that creates this level of extra burden and risk taking to open your mouth about something that you have an opinion on, and it squelches a lot of people from speaking up. And so I agree with you that as women, we need to stand together. We need to create opportunities for each other, and we need to go to bat for each other. And I think that allyship, both with women and with men, is what will help us change that narrative. Which goes to really the theme of the Women in Cloud Summit, which is collective power. So how do you think about the idea of collective power?
Well, I think when I was a much younger woman, there were so many barriers to women. Even if you were applying for a graduate scholarship, they said, well, you're just going to get married. And I mean, it was just so hard. And so women, in a sense, were competing with one another. Sometimes there'd only be one or two women who would get to be partners at the law firm or get to be promoted, etc. And tokenism really destroys the solidarity between women. Now, I think things have improved, partly through changes in law and policy that protect against discrimination, but also just increasing numbers of women. And of course, with these women who have demonstrated how good they are. So you get research that shows that companies who have women in their leadership, I think, lots of studies, a recent one by Credit Suisse, whose companies that have women on their senior management and boards of directors are more profitable. So now you can say, well, why don't you have any women? Because you're not, serving your shareholders very well. But I think that now, as more women get there, and if women show solidarity, it makes it a lot easier, that women don't have to be competing against one another. And I think that there are some people think, oh, well, women were always competitive because they're, competing for the good husbands, or they're competing for this. But I think when you don't have the sense that your merit will be reflected in the results of the things that you do or the jobs that you compete for, when you know that you're flying in favor, like Claudia Golden's famous research article about how symphony orchestras audition, and the ones that audition behind a screen where they can't see who's playing hire more women. But we can't live our lives auditioning behind a screen, and what that screen covers are the expectations people have that we won't be so good. But I think as there are more of us, I think it's easier for us to support one another because we're not just competing for the one chance that a woman's going to get. We're going to hire a woman. Well, women should be, candidates for everything that's going if they're qualified. But even women themselves, I mean, there are studies that have shown that panels of men and women in science faculties would require a woman to have 2.5 times as many publications as a man to be seen as an equal candidate. And so we can ourselves internalize that sense that maybe we made it, but the others maybe won't be so good. And sometimes women are afraid that if a woman fails, that'll spoil it for all of them. And I think we just have to demand the same rights to fail that men have, and the same opportunity, the same right to make our own way, and be part of things that men have. And I would be very happy if someday women had the same sense of privilege that men have, and were seen as the default category when you wanted to get somebody good.
I agree. I mean, because when you think about it, the what you were saying before about women don't take risk, it's like, well, that's because you fall farther and faster when you fail as a woman than you do as a man, and that is something that has to change, because we need to be where we won't succeed unless we take those risks, unless we put ourselves out there, unless we're okay being vulnerable, and it is the importance of that collective power, because collectively we succeed, and we can support each other, and we can encourage each other. I think one of the things that you've mentioned quite a few times is access to this, changing the policies, changing the processes, changing the underlying foundation and system. And the goal of the Women in Cloud is to help women entrepreneurs create $1 billion in economic access and opportunity by the year 2030. So I wanted to know, from your experience and all of the councils and the groups that you work with, what would be our most effective way to reach that goal?
Well, I think you have to be able to show, and I think you can, there's increasingly research that helps it, and maybe even commissioning your own. You have to be able to show that this is good business. I mean, at the end of the day, even a woman investor, I mean, she may sentimentally, want to invest in women-owned companies, but it'll be a lot easier for her to do that when she knows that, this is going to be a good investment. And, you had a panel, I think Yuval Neiman, I think his name was, who talked about his own investment company that is very happy to support women-owned businesses. I chaired a foundation in Kiev, and I met once with a group, the Canadian Chamber of Commerce, because Canadians, a lot of them went over to try and, after the fall of the Soviet Union and Ukraine becoming independent. And I was meeting with these Canadians, and most of the ones who went left fairly quickly because they got fleeced. It wasn't their grandparents' Ukraine, and they discovered it was pretty risky. But one of the men who had stayed said to me, I only do business with companies owned by women. He said, they're honest, they're effective, I can rely on them, they're really smart. And it was really interesting because culturally, he felt there was just a big difference, that they didn't see it as a chance to rip him off. They wanted to build a relationship. And I think sometimes our lack of hubris, the fact that we haven't had that sense of privilege, has helped us to develop a little bit more of a humane perspective on things, that we don't expect to be able to get stuff for nothing, and to be, if we're, tall and wearing the 3-piece suit and, look impressive, that we'll get what we want. That we have to earn it. And I think, and maybe someday we'll be so successful and so equal that we'll be jerks too. But I'm willing to bet on it. If that happens, sue me. I mean, but I do think that there are ways in which having to struggle a bit, and knowing that you do have to have the goods, but it also can help you to be maybe just a little kinder and a little more human in your approach. And a lot of men, it's interesting, research people who look at companies say that confident men actually usually like working for women bosses because, first of all, women bosses tend to be often more collaborative, and so they get a better chance. And so, if a man doesn't want to work for a woman, my view is, well, there's a danger sign. But I don't think women are better than men. I think they're different than men, and I think because our lived experience is different, I think there's a lot of overlap, and women are very diverse. We're as diverse as men. It's like some men are wonderful and totally get working with women, and I've worked with some marvelous men. And I say, if my male prime minister hadn't put me in certain cabinet positions, I wouldn't have had the chance to shine. So I think that we need to recognize that we do have allies and friends out there among men, and we need to cherish them, and we need to ask them to be even more active in sponsoring us and promoting us, but also not taking no for an answer. And I think one of the things that concerns me, and I realize you're probably not a partisan organization, but my concern about the Trump administration was I think that Donald Trump kind of normalized a certain misogynistic vocabulary and way of looking at things that was really not good for women. And I think that as much as women can, they need to use whatever collective power they have to push back against that. It's not okay to be sexist and to denigrate women. And I think also, you had somebody who's does a lot of work at sort of women's, bodies and sexuality. And I think that's also in some ways the last frontier, the right of women to be sexual beings, but to be other things as well. I mean, we don't assume a man who is a sexual being, can't run a company or solve a theorem or, send a rocket to the moon. We don't assume that. And it's the completeness of the female person that we also need to struggle to have recognized. And that's why it's interesting to see women actually challenging the taboos, even the menstruation taboo, that now you're seeing, universities and governments, supplying free sanitary products to women. It's no longer something that girls have to be embarrassed about. I mean, the female body is remarkable when you think about what we can do. We can be doing all these great things, and meanwhile, we're gestating a little new person. And the way our whole reproductive cycle works is quite remarkable. But we shouldn't be embarrassed about those things. They should just be matter of fact things that should be recognized in a civilized society. So I think that the conversation has changed a lot since I was a young woman, and to all the women who've contributed to that, I really take my hat off. But I think as women in cloud, that what's so important is that solidarity and the appreciation of one another, and I think learning one another's stories so that you can talk knowledgeably about what other women are doing, because I think those stories. I just watching the conference and seeing what people are doing, I think it's wonderful. It cheers me up enormously, inspires me, but it's part of the narrative of women do this and they do it well. And if you don't support them, you're missing out. Women are a great bet for partnership and for investment.
Absolutely. I agree. I mean, and I think that you said it very well, that leadership has no boundaries. It has no boundaries between whether you're female or male. A great leader is a leader who has integrity, who has honesty, who's willing to be vulnerable, who's authentic, who shows empathy, and who leads with the collaboration and the collective in mind, the collective outcomes, and is not selfish and thinks about a greater purpose. And those are great leadership qualities. I do believe that organizations that have a great mix of women and men are more likely to get to that level of leadership for their organization. And I do think that women do carry a lot of those qualities because of our lived experience, because it is not as privileged as the men that we work with. And I think that is what creates great female leaders, and we need to recognize and reward that women are just as capable, if not more capable, of being great leaders as men. And so I appreciate all that you have done to help show the way, that you continue to do in the forums in which you work, to continue to promote and advocate on behalf of women, and really empower women and unlock that value through simple conversations with the women you were talking about, where you respect and you honor the work that they do, and that inspires them. And you have been inspiring to me. So I would like to thank you, Ms. Campbell, for your time today, for your collaboration with the Women in Cloud, and for your relentless efforts to continue breaking barriers for women. I think I speak for everyone watching today when I say that your story and your words have been absolutely inspiring. So thank you very much, and we look forward to watching you continue to go on to even greater success.
Thank you. It's a labor of love, and thank you for inspiring me, and all the best to Women in Cloud.
So, but right now, since I have you here and you have each other, I'm wondering if you would put in the chat, what are your key takeaways from what Gabriella said earlier? And what are the things that you want to do based on some of the things that she suggested? Just take a moment to write in the chat, what are you going to do? What will be some of the things that you'll want to do in your area to either get your message out, to collaborate with other people? Tell me a few things so that we could call them out here in the chat. And of course, you know, me, I'm creating a visual behind me. More connections. Hard to believe, yes. Become the mentor who inspired you, yes. Step up and act. Be available to other women. And I want to just say that, you know, remember that you will be at a table, and at that table, you can connect with other people. And there you'll be able to you can text them right in the chat directly by finding their name. All right, so encourage young women to take up careers in tech. Yes, wasn't this statistic like shocking to me when she said that women in tech had gone down, that women of color more likely to be laid off? Like, really, are you kidding me? This is the world that we live in still. And so we really have to do things to really adjust our focus and make sure that we're really focusing on the great things. Now, there's one page in your book which is all around the visioning aspect. We're going to talk about it a little bit later, but I want you to think about, what is your North Star for this conference? What is something that you really, really, really want to see happen in your business, in your connections? And a couple of things that they've been talking about earlier is that you want to walk away from the conference with 10 great ideas. You want to walk away with 10 new actions and 10 new connections. So think about who you really want to meet that you've actually seen so far, or that you knew was going to be on the program, whether it's the Black Founders Circle or whether you're going to get mentorship. Find the people that are going to be essential to you being successful. I love it. My personal transformation so I can attract and empower women in my company and my life. I was thinking that myself, like, how can I do that with my vendors that I hire, you know, or that I give my money to? I want to make sure that they are really doing what's right. 10 actions times 10 connections times 10 ideas. Thanks, Karen. Make a habit. Support each other, learn to become more confident and inspired. Okay, so one thing around that confidence piece. So we're doing the Rock Your Pitch tomorrow. We're doing that, but there's so many things happening. You choose what's right for you. But one thing I would say is that confidence builds on itself. The more risk you take, the more flexible you become in your mindset. So let's see some really confident out there future you things. empowering videos to a colleague who's applying for a new role, encouraging people. I love that. That's fantastic. And for everybody that's listening, next week on Groundhog Day, I'm doing a Draw Your Future session, and I want to give it to you for free. So you can come and work that with me if you want. The code is DYF free. Draw Your Future, DYF free. Just go to Creative Genius U and sign up right away, because I want you to draw that picture of that future you so you can connect to it better. So we get that North Star in place.
So the next speaker that we have is Anita Campbell, and she's the CEO of Small Business Trends and a media and information company. She's going to be leading the Empower Her Access Power Panel. We'll get her in. The intention that we want to do is we want to really understand how $1 billion can impact and what's the role of corporation and government. So Anita, in her role, closely follows trends in the small business market and trends in the technology. Anita Campbell has been an entrepreneur at heart her entire life, a lawyer by training. She has a wide range of interests as reflected in her varied background in banking, information technology, human resources, marketing, and e-commerce. She's a business speaker, analyst, publisher, and writer, widely regarded as an authoritative voice on small business issues. Anita publishes several online media properties reaching over 20 million small business owners annually. She also shares her voice on an openforum.com and is invited to contribute at the SBA.gov community site, among others. I am so excited to have her moderate Empower Her with Access Power Panel to lead a powerful discussion about the role of corporation and government to drive economic inclusion for women. Welcome, Anita.
Thank you very much, Ketra. It's delightful to be here today. Honored. I'm Anita Campbell, of course, and I'm the moderator for today's Empower Her Access panel. Don't you just love that hashtag Empower Her with the H in it? So don't forget that. All right, the 2021 Women in Cloud Digital Summit celebrates the achievements of women in technology through collective power. We heard that earlier from Gabriella. During this session, we're going to talk about how collective power is going to play an important role in bringing $1 billion, that's billion with a B, in economic access to women-led STEM companies by 2030. Leading this effort is the Empower Her Access campaign. It's a public policy campaign announced during the World Economic Forum's annual meeting in Davos in January of 2020. And it was subsequently launched in March of last year by our panelist, Kate Roberts. You're going to hear from her in just a minute. She's the founder of Maverick Collective, and Women in Cloud advisor Giovanni Mingarelli also participated in launching that. Now, the campaign's designed to bring together companies and governments in driving greater economic access to existing procurement vehicles. We're not asking for money in this, we're asking for access. Now, this at a time when only 1% of enterprise contracts are being given to women-led STEM companies. Just imagine that, just 1%. I know we can do a lot better than that, don't you think? Despite being launched during the first week of the COVID-19 lockdown, what timing, right? The first wave of Empower Her Access campaign received over 600,000 social media shares. And it featured notable supporters such as Canada's first and only women Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Kim Campbell, who we'll be hearing from shortly, Washington State Senator Patty Kuderer, and Canadian Minister of Procurement Anita Anand, just to name a few of notable people. Now, this year's Empower Her Access campaign will support what Women in Cloud does best. It's going to match women companies with procurement opportunities. And that's really what it's all about. This time, it's going to have a focus on women-led SMEs in Canada and the United States. And we'll do this via a partnership with Canada's Digital Main Street, which is a $60 million federally funded marketplace to match Canadian SMEs with buyers online. Now, think about this. Over 60% of their Shop Here founders are women. And we're delighted for the opportunity to work with such a terrific organization. Now, over the next 30 minutes, thought leaders across the investment world, the nonprofit, corporate, and startup sectors are going to discuss their own journeys. Now, we're going to hear directly from them about supporting greater economic access for women and what more can be done by companies and governments to reach that 1 billion, remember, billion with a B, goal by 2030. So at this point, I'm delighted to introduce our panelists. I'm going to quickly go through their bios, and then we'll jump into questions right after that, and they can introduce, or they can include their introductory remarks as soon as I've completed the bios. First is, of course, Kate Roberts. She's the founder of Maverick Collective and the Body Agency. She's a global social entrepreneur. She's a multiple business owner, women's advocate, philanthropist, fundraiser, artist, and public speaker. She's had a 30-year career of championing women's leadership, public health, a focus on women's sexual reproductive health, sexual wellness, and exponential philanthropy. Now, together with Melinda Gates and Her Royal Highness, the Crown Princess of Norway, Roberts founded the Maverick Collective, which is a $100 million groundbreaking philanthropic initiative led by women for women, innovating and scaling women-focused public health solutions across 60 developing countries. This is truly global. Most recently, Roberts has completed a $1 million raise for her for-profit social enterprise, The Body Agency, which is an e-commerce and educational femtech platform to provide women full-body wellness products and services from puberty to post-menopause. She also serves as a global leader of the World Economic Forum. So welcome, welcome today, and we are very happy to have you here, Kate. Next, we have Yuval Neiman, who is the managing director of Trilogy Equity Partners, and he's a member of Trilogy's investing team. Prior to joining Trilogy, Yuval spent 16 years at Microsoft, where he led the developer division and the creation of Microsoft Visual Studio.net and Microsoft Net Framework. Yuval was on the board of M Systems. He's been an investor, an advisor, a board member for a number of startups, including Soluto, which was acquired by Asurion, OfficeSync, StreamOnce, Replay Technologies, and Redkicks, which was acquired by Facebook. So welcome, Yuval. Bonnie Foley Wong is the head of investment strategy at the Equality Fund. So Bonnie is a strategic and forward-looking investment and financial professional. She's got over 20 years of experience of mobilizing capital for entrepreneurial businesses. I'm sure she's got great insights. Over the course of her career, she has financed over 1 billion, again, that's billion with a B, of alternative investments in Europe and North America. Bonnie helps organizations analyze future scenarios, connect the dots, and spot patterns. And as head of investment strategy at the Equality Fund, Bonnie builds the Equality Fund's investment activities and ensures its investment strategy helps create sustainable sources of funding for advancing gender equality globally. Hence the name, the Equality Fund. Pamela Maynard is the CEO of Avanade. I hope I pronounced that right. Pamela is committed to Avanade's purpose, which is to create a genuine human impact. And as the leading digital innovator, brings this purpose to life through the power of people and the Microsoft ecosystem. passionate supporter of inclusion and diversity, inspires women and entrepreneurs and empowers connections to drive personal and professional growth and innovation. She's also the executive sponsor of Technology for Social Good, which brings the power of the cloud and digital technology to nonprofit organizations to digitally transform their workplaces and accelerate their social impact. Before being named CEO in September 2019, Pamela was president of product and innovation, focused on defining and delivering innovative solutions for clients. Earlier in her Avanade career, she was president of the European organization after serving as general manager of Avanade UK. Well, you all have amazing, absolutely amazing backgrounds here, and I'm just really delighted to have everyone here. So welcome. Okay. I'm going to kick off with one question. I'm going to ask each of you, if you would, let's do a lightning round, 30 seconds, please, and respond to this question. So why is the economic inclusion of women in STEM important to you and your business or organization? So I want to kick off with Kate. Kate?
Thank you so much, Anita, and thank you for having me. It's a true honor to be with this incredible panel, and of course all the participants and speakers. Well, as I've had a 30-year career in being a champion for women, I've really seen around the world what economic empowerment can do. You know, we know that when we invest in a woman, we invest in her community, and we empower and strengthen that community, that nation, and therefore the world's economy. And giving girls and women access to economic inclusion, but also strengthening their ability to be a force in the workplace, invest in their children, plan their families, and they can actually afford their families. It's a fast track to ending extreme poverty around the world. So for me personally, as somebody who is investing in women, this is a very, very important platform for me.
Thank you. Very heartfelt and I think authentic comments. So appreciate that, Kate, and welcome. Next, Pamela, I'd like to welcome you here. Same question to you. Why is the economic inclusion of women in STEM important to you and your organization?
So thank you, Anita, and thank you to Women in Cloud for having me today. Just like Kate, I feel incredibly honored and humbled as well to be part of this amazing panel and this amazing event. So having a more inclusive and diverse workforce, as you said, Anita, is something I am hugely, hugely passionate about. You know, creating an environment women can be themselves, they can be their very best selves, they can do their very, very best work. And you know what? It's just the right thing to do, and it's also critical to Avanade and Avanade's success as a leading digital innovator. I mean, simply put, we cannot support our clients, their employees, or their customers without more women and women of color, you know, around the table. I mean, just consider the influence that women have on the global economy. Women control over $20 trillion. That's about 85% of all consumer spending worldwide. You know, women even purchase 50% of traditional male products, be that cars or automobiles or consumer electronics or home improvement goods. You know, so we absolutely influence almost every purchasing decision across the major industry sectors. I mean, I could go on, but in reality, you know, if we don't have talented women applying their perspectives, sharing their skills, their innovative ideas, we just won't be able to create the compelling experiences and the innovative solutions that our clients demand of us.
Very wonderful remarks. And I also want to say, Pamela, I love that, you know, about bringing your best self. That is so important, and being able to do that. It's a wonderful comment. Well, next I'd like to move on to Yuval, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Yuval. If not, please let me know. Same question to you. Why is the economic inclusion of women in STEM so important?
Thank you, Anita, and you are pronouncing it correctly. Thank you. And I'm also honored and to be here with this panel and thank Women in Cloud for including me here. I'm going to answer this, with the angle of investments, and especially investments in early stage startups, which is what we do. Diversity in investment is a real issue. If you look across the venture capital industry, the percent of women entrepreneurs who get funded is just absolutely low. And for us, it's actually been part of how we've worked since our firm was started about 14 years ago. And I think a key thing, and I'll get back to that theme, is you got to have women in leadership to affect change. And so one of the founding partners and main investors of the fund is a woman, and we are 3 partners who run the firm for the last dozen years, and one of them is a woman, my partner, Amy McCullough. And I think that has brought just a different sense of how we look at this. And when you invest early stage, we typically invest in a couple of founders. So it's a fairly intimate relationship between us and the investors, and how we work with these companies in their early stage, where they go from 2 to 5 to 10 to 30 to 50 to 100 employees. I think part of it is other investors don't have as much diversity, and if they have diversity, it's among the more junior people, not the decision makers. And I think sometimes it means that they overlook great women entrepreneurs. So we've been fortunate to have this kind of way of looking at and see it as an opportunity that other investors are not seeing, potentially some great female entrepreneurs, and also that these entrepreneurs feel comfortable working with us, as I mentioned, in this kind of early, more, almost one-on-one relationship. Now, when you have a woman entrepreneur that then becomes, CEO of a company that's growing, like one of our example, a company called SkillJar, led by Sandy Lin, we invested, 5 or 6 years ago. I think there are somewhere between 100 and 200 employees. By having a woman in leadership, you end up having more women in key positions in the company and creating more opportunity for women. We also are always thinking about making sure that these companies, as they grow and mature, have women in on their boards. And so that's kind of how, I think this is first of all a business opportunity. And I wish that we could have even more women in STEM. Today our portfolio, about a quarter of our companies are led by women entrepreneurs, and about half of those are B2B. We do both B2B and B2C. I would love for this to be 50 or even 60%, but I think part of where there's a challenge, there's just fewer women in STEM and therefore fewer women entrepreneurs. And so that's something that, getting more women in STEM will drive that up as well.
That's a great point that you make about opportunity. And it's not just the opportunity for the entrepreneurs, it's opportunity for the investors as well to get into a wider pool. And then the women founders open up opportunities for more women underneath them who can then come up the ranks. So I think that's, just a wonderful, wonderful insight. So thank you for that, Yuval. All right, we've saved best for last. Bonnie, your answer to why is STEM important?
Yeah, and a couple of lenses. Thank you, Anita. As someone who comes from a STEM background, I have a mathematics background, the freedom to be able to choose a path in STEM was really powerful and a big difference maker, quite frankly. It's not just STEM skills that are critical to the innovation economy. We need diverse perspectives as well, because I want to see a future that's created for all of us, not just for a small subset of the world, but a future that's actually, you know, more equal, more fair, where everyone has access to choice and opportunity. And so we need those diverse perspectives. We need more women to be able to choose a path in STEM.
A great point. It's a future for all of us. I think that's a wonderful quote. Thank you. Well, let me jump over to Kate. I've been dying to ask this question to Kate, because you have an amazing background founding the Maverick Collective, this $100 million women's impact organization with Melinda Gates and the Crown Princess of Norway. I mean, you operate in some heady company there. Now, this year you closed this $1 million investment round to build a women's sexual health enterprise company. So tell us about your journey.
Yes, thank you so much for the great question. So through my background of indeed starting Maverick Collective with Melinda and the Crown Princess, and this organization PSI that I have been supporting and working at for the last 20 years, I absolutely recognized a gap in the marketplace globally for sexual wellness products and services. And by that, I mean anything from period products all the way through to fertility and maternal health, sexual reproductive health, and menopause and postmenopause. And the woman's body and having access to these products through technology is a massive gap. A massive gap. It doesn't matter if you're in Zimbabwe or Detroit, there is a huge gap. And so when I went about really thinking through this gap, and I should say, to echo Pamela's comments, the opportunity for women investors and women philanthropists for this marketplace is absolutely huge. $2.7 trillion will be passed into the hands of women over the next number of years. I think by the statistic is by 2024, there will be $2.7 trillion, not billion, trillion in the hands of women. So with building Maverick Collective and focusing on key innovations in healthcare for women and testing it through the platform of PSI, there was a big gap. So I decided to start the Body Agency, which is a femtech company, e-commerce company offering real innovation that we've scoured the world for. And I was told on this journey of raising this $1 million, Kate, first of all, you're a woman founder. Second of all, you have a femtech company. You will have no chance whatsoever in raising this money. But I did, and I'm very, very proud of myself for doing so. What I will tell you, and I'm so grateful that Yuval is on as our man for the Girl Effect advocate, that I have mostly women investors, but the two first investors that came to the table were men. And so we cannot change this world for women without men investors investing in women founders, even when the topic is female body health. So that's really what led me to today. But what I will tell you is, for anyone listening out there who's going along a journey of starting their own company during COVID, I didn't start just one, I started two in March. Went haywire in the world. That, women founders are, I know plenty of women founders are some of the most creative, passionate, smart individuals and entrepreneurs I've ever met. And we really can do it all. We can raise our family, we can look after our family, we can start businesses. And right now, with all of us who have a child on Zoom trying to study and get their education, whilst we're out there creating companies, and we really can do it all. So that was a snapshot of my journey over the last few months.
Very inspiring. So thanks for sharing that very much, Kate. Well, I want to come back to y'all, our man in the house here for this session. So I was intrigued by your comments there and talking about opportunity. You know, it's one thing to talk about opportunity in the abstract or in a general sense, but you know what I think everyone will listen to, business leaders, investors, entrepreneurs, is the bottom line, dollars and cents. And I wonder, do you have any examples or insights about how this can impact a business's bottom line to invest in women?
That's a great question. And this is, you know, especially when we invest early stage, there's a long lead time. You know, typically it takes 10 years before you find out how your invested actually paid back economically. And I just want to step back for a second before I answer your question. Is we are, you know, we are kind of, we view ourselves as, you know, economic animals. I mean, our job is to get maximum return for the investors whose money we're investing, a little bit of our money, but it's mostly other people's money. So, you know, us investing in way more women entrepreneurs than most other VC firms, we just see this as a business opportunity. In terms of actual returns, you know, I would say that, you know, the business we're in is kind of interesting because, you know, we probably invest in one company out of 100 companies that we see. And it's really hard to predict, you know, what company that is today, you know, two people with a little bit of technology or an idea will become, you know, a company, you know, that has, you know, $100 million revenue and, you know, 1,000 employees and could IPO, you know. We have had a number of women-led companies be very successful. The company I mentioned is, you know, kind of on its way there. And so it's hard for me to give you hard numbers, but we're definitely seeing success, a very good sign of success of these early companies growing, and that the ones led by women are doing as well as the one led by men. It's not, I wouldn't say, I mean, so I think that's very clear. And we're, you know, just in the last 12, 15 months, you know, we've invested, personally, I've led 2 investment in women-led B2B companies very early. And they're both, you know, they just had their, you know, second and third paying customers and, you know, very, very early in that journey, but it's looking very promising. So I think it's too early for us because of the nature of our business to have hard numbers, but the metrics that we look at look very promising, and at the very least, the women-led companies are doing as well as the men.
That's great to know, and it's great to hear this from a male, because I do think that message will resonate, certainly, and we look forward to seeing more and more investments. All right, I'd like to jump to Pamela at this point. So, Pamela, Avanad's purpose is to make a genuine human impact. How are you supporting women in this journey, and why is it important to your business model to do so?
So, thank you for a great question again, Anita. And I touched in the opening on why diversity is good for our business. You know, innovation demands it. We've heard that already. And women are critical drivers and also consumers of that innovation. So from an Avanade perspective, we've pursued a very deliberate, very purpose-driven strategy around inclusion and diversity since our inception 20 years ago, starting first with programs aimed at increasing the number of women pursuing STEM careers. And we did that through our global partnership with Junior Achievement and providing mentoring to young people as well through, and also access to for young women through our Avanade STEM Scholarship Program, you know, which helps women from underserved communities to pursue STEM degrees. And then we stepped back and we thought, well, as we've got women into the STEM workforce, what do we need to do to actually keep them here? Because again, as we've heard today already, women are dropping out of technology, the technology industry, technology careers at a much greater rate than men are right now. And so internally, we've put a number of different people processes in place, that we can see are already making a difference. We've thought about diversity in our hiring and recruitment processes, making sure we've got candidate rating guidelines, making sure we've got women involved in the interview process. We've actually looked and put in place processes in our performance management as well to ensure we're seeing women progress through to our leadership roles. And I'm delighted to say we've got way more women now in leadership roles at Avanade than we've ever had before, including 3 of our board, or 5 are women at Avanade. And we also held up the mirror by setting measurements and targets, metrics, to ensure that from an executive leadership team and our global leadership team, we were actually doing what we said we needed to do and seeing our inclusion and diversity agenda progress. But COVID-19, the pandemic, has exacerbated gender inequality, and Gabriella said that earlier as well. Women on average, even before the pandemic, were shouldering 3 times the responsibility of caring for families and elder care than men were. And it's just got so much worse. With women having to juggle work, having to manage integrating home and work life, and also, as we just heard from Kate, taking a huge responsibility around the 87% of children who are currently remote learning at home right now. And so from a technology industry perspective, we're no different than any other industry. And at Avanade, what we've been doing is looking at how can we put in place resources that help our women to stay in Avanade. We've embarked on an alternative work week, looking at flexible working, put in place resources around well-being and also mental health. And it's, because what I want is I don't want anybody to feel that they should opt out. That's absolutely what we need to stop and avoid. And I'm a firm believer as well, Anita, in the fact that a rising tide lifts all boats. So by empowering women, providing them more access, the opportunity to work, we all win. Communities will prosper, families become stronger, and economies will absolutely thrive. The potential impacts are enormous, and therefore I see no reason why every single business on the planet isn't opting in to helping and to play some part in making that possible.
Great points. And I also want to call out your point early on about getting women involved in interviewing. That is so important, especially for executive positions. As a former HR VP, I can tell you that women see different things in interviews. They interpret body language and responses very differently. So great insight. Great. All right. Now, Bonnie, you financed over $1 billion of alternative investments in Europe and North America. So what do you think the world would look like today if all of that money had been invested in women-led companies and projects? I mean, what do you think that would look like?
Yeah, and with that question, I have something at the back of my mind. Christine Lagarde, who was formerly the head, said in 2008, after the financial crisis, if it was Lehman Sisters instead of Lehman Brothers, the world would be a very different place. So, it's been 12 years since that event, but that still wears on my mind. And I do honestly think the world would be a very different place. Just to name a few ways I think it would be different. I think we'd have a safer place, both in terms of how physical goods are created, but also how digital spaces are created. We've heard about how crash test dummies were designed to be large, based on male composition of the body, where the weight is distributed. When airbags were first deployed, they were not safe for pregnant women because the people who designed it didn't even contemplate that someone could be sat there. And so, even from that perspective, we'd have much safer things. And we constantly read about online harassment in digital spaces. I think if we had women at the helm of businesses, more ventures creating these kind of spaces, like they would be more safer, which would make more room for choice and for women's voices and different perspectives to be heard. I do think we'd have a more innovative world and innovation in a more sustainable way. Women are risk takers. I always love to just debunk the myth that women do not take risks. I mean, this whole summit is full of women entrepreneurs that are taking risks, but we do so in a really astute way. And we're balancing different things and managing those risks differently, taking into consideration different perspectives, this whole idea around the collective. And lastly, which is really timely for right now, in the middle of a global pandemic, I do believe we would have a more prosperous and healthier world. There's a lot of research out there, I think of Wilkinson and Pickett, that highlighted a number of the different correlations between more equal societies where women's status was higher, tended to be healthier. It correlated with better social outcomes. It tended to correlate with higher levels of trust. And so I honestly think we'd be experiencing a very different world, particularly in the midst of a global pandemic and the economic consequences from this. And in terms of the Equality Fund, we are in partnership with the Government of Canada. We are stewarding a $300 million portfolio thanks to a contribution from the government. We are tasked with investing that and stewarding it in a way that puts gender equality at the forefront. We're investing with a gender lens. So gender lens investing is something that was coined more than 10 years ago, where we're taking into consideration gender impacts. And so we are disproportionately, directing our capital towards businesses that prioritize the perspectives, rights, and needs of women and girls globally.
Great. Gender lens, I love it. Excellent. Well, listen, I'm getting the 2-minute flag. So one quick last question, and I'll ask everybody to just, if you wouldn't mind, give me 30 seconds or so with this last question, which is, your parting advice for the audience. How do we give women founders greater access to procurement? Bonnie, let's start with you, since you've been waiting last for many of these.
Yeah, this is the moment to be making money work for women in as many ways as possible. For us, we have an investing lens, so we're investing our dollars with that gender lens. And I think, also, paying attention to how we're using those dollars and also how we're using our voices and our connections. So I think it's not just, I don't believe in putting the onus on women entrepreneurs to stick their hands up. Those of us in positions where we can influence buying decisions, investment decisions, like we should be using our influence and our voices to direct more capital towards women.
Very, very good. Be more proactive about reaching out. I love it. Pamela, parting thoughts and advice for the audience.
So I go back and I'm going to start with my the phrase that I love around the rising tide lifts all boats, and the fact that if we can create more access, more empowerment for women, more women in the workforce, we will all win. The underlying, this is reason for doing this. I would say, and just building off of what Bonnie said, and something we've learned in Avanade as well, is that don't think that you don't worry or be too concerned about the level of investment. Just start investing. You can start small. The first thing. The second thing as well, which I think has also been really important for us, is think about partnerships, right? The way to accelerate and to have even more impact is through partnerships. It's through collaborations. It's through collective power. And the most important thing of all is let's all just get started.
Just do it. All right. I love it. Okay. All right, Yuval, your parting advice.
First of all, I love what both Bonnie and Pamela said, and I 100% agree with that. I think, I go back to just a couple of themes that I mentioned earlier. One is to really push for change and more representation, more diversity in the decision making, be it within VC firms or large companies who, in procurement and so forth. And, that change is not going to happen overnight. Unfortunately, it's going to take time. And, I think some of the big, Valley VC firms have been kind of in some ways shamed into starting to think more about diversity because it's just been so poor. So there's change there. It's slow, but it's going to happen. The other one, which I think is more profound and maybe more appropriate for the procurement side, is just talk about the business. You're missing opportunities. You're missing potential great vendors who can be, provide better tools and services to your company by not seeing these women who might not be in your network, right? I mean, that's kind of, and so I think that in the end, there is business justification to do this, just like we're seeing in our fund at Trilogy Equity. I think it's appealing to the bottom line, and obviously this varies between each opportunity and each interaction. But I think those are the two things that I would, from my point of view, would emphasize. It's kind of putting more women in leadership and decision making, and then showing the opportunity, the lost opportunity if you don't pay attention to women entrepreneurs or women-led businesses who can provide better services to your company.
Great points, Yuval. Thank you very much. And let's have Kate wrap us up here. Kate, what parting ideas would you like to share?
You are on mute.
You're on mute. Unmute.
Sorry. I'm about to state something that might be obvious to people, but, our body, our female body is our power. Our sexuality is our power. It is not a negative force. It's a huge positive force. Our body is our power. We don't need to dress up in a pantsuit and try to be a man, right? Our sexuality is our power. Health is wealth, right? We need health before anything else. I want to echo what our other panelists have said. Collective action, don't reinvent the wheel. It's all there. We don't need to do anything else. Collectively working together is our power. The world is now connected. Whether you're in a slum in Zimbabwe or in New York City, we need to invest in technology in connecting those dots. And lastly, I would say that really not working in silos. We really work in silos. We can't stop talking about our company or our thing. And it really is a time to take a business approach to all of these problems, whether you are marketing or selling to the poor, or whether you are marketing to the uber rich. It really is all about a business approach and investing in that innovation together. And that is my last thought. I hope I summarized everyone's comment.
You did a great job, Kate. Thank you so much. Well, we are out of time. This has been absolutely amazing. You have shared wonderful insights. And so Bonnie Foley-Wong, Kate Roberts, Pamela Maynard, Yuval Neiman, thank you all very much.
Thank you, Anita, for hosting that. That was awesome panel. Thank you so much.
So I'd love to invite the Cloud Accelerator graduate panel to please join me. If you could turn your cameras on and microphones on. Hello, Gail.
Hi, Karen.
Hello. Hello, Dan.
I didn't graduate.
Honorary graduate. And I think we have just 2 more people to bring online with us.
Awesome.
So while we're doing that, why don't I just add some context here. So first of all, a big congratulations to the members of the 4th class of our Women in Cloud Accelerator. This happened to be an all digital class from all across the world. And I hope that you sort of sit in the moment of just proud reflection, because you did it. And it was against a lot of odds. So congratulations. Now we're here today to talk a little bit with our graduates and with Dan Truax, who is a major sponsor of not only this community, but also in support of how to build businesses, how to build tech businesses with Microsoft. The Cloud Accelerator is a major program of the Women in Cloud community. It's basically a 6-month program that helps to guide female tech founders through their cloud transformation. In this cohort, we learn how to create differentiated value, how to create pricing models that ensure profitability, that we are building solutions on the Azure platform, and publishing our solutions through the Microsoft marketplaces, as well as unlocking resources that Microsoft has available to help build and grow your business. So why don't I start with the introduction of our panel, and I think we have one more who will be joining us shortly. So I'll start with introducing Dan Truax, who is the General Manager of Partner Programs for Microsoft. He has, I'll also disclose that Dan is my boss. And I just want to say, even whether or not he was my boss, he has been an incredibly supportive, inspiring leader for me. I mean, he's here on this panel, right? My boss is on this panel to help continue to send the message around what it takes for us to continue to support tech innovations and tech innovative companies for women. So thank you so much, Dan, for being here with us.
No, thank you, Karen. That's very kind.
I'd also love to introduce Taisha O'Brien. She is with Seam Social Labs as a founder and head of strategy, and also a graduate of the Accelerator program from the last class. We also see Gail Mercer-McKay, who's founder and CEO of Mercer-McKay Solutions. And Susan's coming online. Hello, Susan.
Hi.
And Susan, yep. And Susan Sanders, co-founder and chief technology officer for Valeku. Welcome to the panel today, everyone. So let's start with, as a channel leader, you're making significant investments in creating access to customers, investments in technology for Microsoft partners worldwide. Can you share the strategy behind that?
Thank you. First of all, this has been such a fun morning and incredibly inspiring. So I'm very humbled and I appreciate being here. It's been amazing. You know, the way I think about it, at least, is it really starts with our customers. You know, we have such a vast array of customers that range from, you know, the very largest Fortune companies all the way to the very smallest small business or SMB customers. And I'm amazed every day when I look at, you know, their business models and their needs for, you know, technology and services vary so widely. And in my particular role at Microsoft, I'm just so fortunate because I get to see that we have an equally wide array of partners that represent what is truly the largest technology ecosystem in the world. And that ecosystem, that powerful ecosystem, gives us a scale that is just unmatched. And when you take that scale along with the breadth and innovation of products that not only we Microsoft have, but when that's complemented with the IP and services that come from our partners, you know, you get the power of more. And that's why we talk about all the time that our partners are what make more possible, and it's how we achieve customer success. And so, you know, I think of our strategy, it's pretty simple, but it's very comprehensive. You know, we want to work with our partners at every stage of their life cycle, from the time they're building and we want to help them with both sales and technical enablement. We want to help them in the actual development of the solutions, and we want to help them expand their capabilities. And when they're ready to go to market, we want to help accelerate that through the sales and marketing content and programs that we can provide. We want to help them generate customer demand, and we want to help them grow new business, and that can, in cases, can be new solution areas, new industries, new geos that they want to reach into. And then once they're in market, we all know it's all about reaching new customers. And Chaitra talked earlier about the importance of getting solutions in the marketplace, and that's something we're very focused on, because once you do that, then it all pays off. It's all about selling. And it's all about, how we work with partners, whether that's in, just the way we try to provide leads or referrals, all the way up through joint selling with Microsoft, where we have partner sellers and Microsoft sellers working together with customers, which has been a huge momentum for us. And through that entire process, on our team, as you know, Karen, programmatically, we want to help our partners differentiate themselves to the customer, and give them the right ways that they can earn distinctions that show, your deep technical expertise, the capabilities you have, the delivery you have. And then the really powerful, listening this morning about the power of networking and mentoring and everything, one of the unique things we have in our ecosystem is what we call P2P, or partner to partner. And what I see every day is that when one partner works with another partner, it just results in amazing customer experiences. And sometimes that's, an IP partner bringing their application along with a partner that does services. And then in many cases, it's just the collective expertise, whether that's in an industry or a core solution area. And so that's the one thing that I really took from this morning also, is how we should be thinking about our partners in that collaboration and that collective voice.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is just part of an accelerated business craft, right? That you not only are, doing the things to help advance your own technology and create more value to your customers, but you can reach through an extended network of other capabilities to continue building on that value. So Taisha, you won your first enterprise deal, $25,000 enterprise deal. So you broke through, yes, and with a company that consults on public health issues. So how did you do that, right? That's a tough thing to do. What was the solution you provided?
Yeah, so to give a little frame for everyone in the audience, our enterprise product is called Consensus. And what we do is we work with companies and we provide a solution that allows you to launch SMS surveys, get translations for those surveys, and analyze qualitative data. And all of this ultimately helps the companies or government agencies we work with be able to have less biased data. Oftentimes people come to us and they're like, look, we've run this survey, we did it statewide in California, but we realize there's a certain demographic responding, and it's more of a certain privileged community, or more of a community that is on the middle or high income. We want to reach other everyday people. We want to reach the Black or Latinx community. How do we do that? And so our product provides that solution. We worked with throughout the Women in the Cloud program, and when we first came into it, we were just thinking about annual or monthly subscriptions. We were working with much smaller consulting firms, and the Women in the Cloud program really helped us think about the value that our solution provides, how we can position it to be able to sell it as an enterprise tool, and really being able to build it out within the Azure marketplace to say, one, this is why it's valuable, and two, have it in this framework that's a little more sophisticated than when we started. So by the end of the program, we had already been in conversation with this potential customer, but by December, we were able to give them a live walkthrough of the product, have them kind of test it out so they can get a tactile feel. And then by mid-December, they officially closed the deal and said, we want to proceed. And we got our first enterprise customer. So it was a process of having that customer who we've been speaking to for almost 2 months, but really having that solution that they can kind of test out and put their hands on and see how it can have really good outcomes for them and the work that they have to do every day.
You are so inspiring. This is what we're talking about, right? This is how women will start to create real economic difference. because we are getting connected into the enterprise, into much larger engagements, and they need us. They need you. So very, very happy for your success here. Congratulations. So Susan, you were a part of this last Cloud Accelerator cohort. Why did you join the Accelerator, and what's your journey been like so far? Would love to hear a little bit more about the impact you were able to achieve with your participation.
Okay, great. So a little bit of background, I'm a co-founder of Veliku, and Veliku is a solution that's transforming the ways that companies are able to communicate, engage with their employees. And one of the key parts of that is the unique way that we embed ourselves within the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. So I provide that background because, like most companies that are getting ready to go more into the market, you're always looking for ways to get a boost and ways to accelerate. So when we came across Women in Cloud, we weren't quite getting the traction that we wanted. And we saw this as an opportunity because of the Microsoft potential partnership. And obviously with our solution, that made perfect sense. It felt like a really natural fit. So we could really heavily leverage Microsoft 365 and Azure. And also for the benefits of connected into an area where we didn't have a lot of relationships. So my co-founder, Michael Rednick, and I have extensive relationships through our previous experience with employee communicators and HR people, but not in the IT world. So we also have potential value as well. So I think it fit that bill, but truthfully, I had no idea how helpful it was going to be. Even just from a tactical perspective, the things that we've accomplished in such a short period of time, whether it's our technical architecture diagram, refining the value proposition, it's all about getting us ready to really get into the game. But it's also more than that. So you have all that prepared, that access, that connection and support is really invaluable. And I remember thinking about this one day, that you're working on this, you put all this energy into it, and then all of a sudden it's 2 months later and you feel completely prepared and you feel like this is your place to be interacting with this enterprise. And that is something so invaluable on top of the access, on top of the connections, and just the tactical preparations as well.
During that, Susan, I was actually talking with Michael yesterday at the welcome reception, and he was saying that, you know, the Women in Cloud community, the cohort community in particular, was a big part of helping to continue to stay motivated, right? To know that you had this sort of collective team of people that are all there, like going through it and also supporting.
If I could add one thing, and when we think about success in terms of customers, but we are also starting on track with a couple of potential people that are already Microsoft partners, and how we can go to market together because we have complementary solutions. So I think that's an exciting part as well.
Oh my gosh, I know Dan is smiling ear to ear, P2P, that's what we're talking about, partner to partner, yes.
Right.
Fantastic. And Gail, so you finished the Accelerator a year ago. What kind of growth have you seen in your business? And if you have any wisdom to share?
Oh my gosh. Karen, you know, the Accelerator changed, big game changer for me. I can stand here and say we are a multi-million-dollar profitable company employing 70 people, diverse, gender diverse, geodiverse, ethnicity diverse. More than 70% of our people are women. And, you know, we launched our MVP. So I think the first thing I want to say is I wasn't going to apply for the Accelerator because I thought I was too early in my journey. And Chaitra said, no, apply. It was just an idea in my head. We hadn't even built the plan yet. And but she talked me into it, and I applied, and it accelerated me like a launch, like it launched me. And I think the second thing I want to say is because of the WIC program, I did something that I would never have thought of doing on my own. And Dan, you're going to love this. We built our entire solution on Dynamics with the Power Platform. So when we actually got our plan to paper and we looked at doing it, it was okay, this is going to cost us millions. This could take us a year. And my mentor, Stacey Tatum, said, well, what about dynamics? Have you looked at dynamics? And so that's P2P. I called one of the top dynamics partners in the Microsoft ecosystem and said, do me a report. Here's our plan. Can we build this on dynamics and not sacrifice any functionality? And they did that report. And then we actually hired them to build our MVP, which launched March 4th last year, right after the accelerator. And then knowledge transfer. So now we're taking that ourselves and we're building. And we've been talking about risk here. And I think, you know, for women, we take calculated risks, a little different than our male counterparts. And I think dynamics is a really safe risk for women because it's the citizen developer, it's got all these opportunities. And so it's a really interesting way to think, I've got an idea, but how could I turn it into a software product? And I think, you know, the final thing I just want to say is community is everything. Like this community has been huge. There's been multiple communities but you know, for sure for acceleration. And things that I would never have thought of, you know, like I'm gonna call out now that Chaitra and I are building a little product and so solution set on the side that we're taking to market, and we're, you know, gonna take it all over the world, and she's been amazing to work with. That whole partnership thing is huge. I will say, if anybody's sitting there and going, oh my gosh, because this is where I was like a few years ago, sitting watching a panel of successful women and going, I wish I had the courage to do that myself. If that's how you feel, I've got I think tomorrow I'm presenting, but it's the 10 steps I took to build this company. And it's sort of a very practical approach from an idea right through to fruition. So if you're thinking I'd like to build a multi-million-dollar company one day, then, you know, please join me on that session, and reach out to me on LinkedIn if you've got questions. We have 70 employees, and February 4th last year was our first official day as a company. So I had been a single contractor doing marketing. And when I got this idea, and we talk about needing some capital, I got a little bit of funding from the Canadian government, was very grateful for that to get us started. But they said, you need employees. We're not going to fund contractors. So I had to go through the process of approaching people, hiring people, setting up the process, you know, doing all the things you need to benefits, the whole thing. So everybody signed on February 4th last year. And then March 12th, I was at a conference in Whistler when the world shut down. It was 4 weeks later. I said, but it's been great. I mean, we have an amazing team of people and community, you know, there's always somebody that I can reach out to. Gabriella Schuster, I don't know if she's still here, but, you know, I love that woman. She makes time for the women in this community to help us grow. She is a rock star. And Karen, you too, you've been so supportive and so helpful in always making sure that there's access. We're getting what we need. Azure credits, you know, we're building an Azure data lake in Azure. We got Azure credits. So we're, you know, it's helping us take these steps, but it's pretty exciting.
And that's what we're talking about, right? That tenacity, that North Star, you have it, and you did it despite these incredible odds. Congratulations, happy anniversary.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I just have a few closing questions that I'll invite selected panelists to speak to. Let's start with Taisha. You know, winning Fortune 1000 companies is hard, right? So what can companies, communities, and influencers do to contribute to making that path a little easier?
I think programs like this are really helpful, because one thing that I've learned in my experience as a founder is network is everything. And so it took a few doors opening to make that happen. And I think the network part is really important, and that's where like Women in the Cloud helps. I think the second thing is to think outside the box. There are so many new solutions that are coming from women, from people of color, from different communities that solve these really interesting, unique problems. And they're problems other communities may have not faced, but they end up being solutions that can be really impactful and that can really change the world, and that are aligned with, like, you know, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So I think having that impact focus and having an open mind to bringing in a new type of solution works. Our customers have mostly worked with typical standard online surveys like SurveyMonkey, and they never thought about using SMS and how using text message can actually allow them to engage with people who are impacted by the digital divide. So that was a new way of thinking for them. But once they did it, it really broadened the communities they were able to get data from, get feedback from, and that has an even deeper impact. So I think those two things are really critical and help tremendously for us and other people in the program.
That's such a great point, Tasia, because many people think SMS and they think it's technology in the past, and that's so not true when you're talking about inclusive impact and trying to bring more people to the forefront. So thanks for saying that, and congratulations to you for seeing that opportunity.
Thank you.
And how about you, Dan? What's your perspective on this?
I would go back to two things, and it's sort of like, I know I'm on the same flow here, but those are difficult customers to crack. And so, Chaitra's push and what this group is doing to surface your solutions in our marketplace, because that makes them available not only to the customers to find you directly, it makes them available to our own sales force that have deep relationships with those kinds of customers. And when our sellers, for example, see opportunities in those large customers, they're daily looking for relevant partner solutions that actually can meet those needs. And so it allows them to, share opportunities with you and vice versa, whether that's them sharing an opportunity that you can work independently or whether that's sharing an opportunity that you can work with them. And I think that's a great foot in the door and a great one example of how to expand the footprint. And then it all goes back to how you develop these relationships. Getting relationships, because it's the power of the collective of when you bring them together. It's really difficult when you're small, and it's really difficult when you don't have that foot in the door. But the more you can create that network with not only Microsoft, but other partners like yourselves that have that, that would be my answer to that, Karen.
Yeah, no, I think that has high resonance.
Yeah.
You're not kidding any of us, and we know it's hard, very hard. But I think that is an excellent point and an excellent path forward. And happy to see that the women in the accelerator, that's exactly what they do. They push those solutions into the marketplace and ensure that there's high differentiation so they can be truly relevant to the field and the enterprise customers we want to serve. So I'm getting the hook, unfortunately. This panel went by so fast. But what's great about being in the community is we are all accessible. So I encourage everyone to reach out, get connected in LinkedIn, get connected inside of our Women in Cloud community. As you can hear from everyone talking, that spirit of generosity and sharing, Gail sharing her best practices of how she did it in a year of amazing difficulty and turned out and came out successfully. Thank you for doing that, Gail, in the panel later.
And I want to add one more thing. I don't know if you know this, but part of getting the funding from the Canadian government was I was accepted into the WIC Accelerator. It was on the application, and that was one of the things that swayed them. So the WIC already has huge presence, and I just wanted to point that out. Like it's a great thing. So
thank you so much. So I'm happy to announce that the next cohort for the accelerator is starting on February 26th. We're accepting applications. Hopefully these panelists have inspired you, and Dan has sort of shared the real earnestness behind wanting to see your success. And we'll also have a chance to meet the entrepreneurs in the Cloud Exec Connect session of our conference, and also hear the Global Pitch Challenge over the next 3 days. With that, thank you so much for joining us, everyone.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Now we're getting into it. I would love to put on Paul Trainer. He's going to give you just a brief overview of what you can expect at the summit so that you can go out and start to do things. We have two last things before we send you out. And I know you've been patiently waiting to network more at your tables. You can use the chat and do that, and I know you have been. So, okay, Raisa, let's roll that video of Paul Trainer, if you would. I can't wait. Get ready.
Hello, and welcome to the Women in Cloud Digital Summit 2021. My name is Paul Trainer, and I am extremely grateful to be here to help kick things off this morning. This movement is about empowering women, but allies are important too, so I'm excited to participate and learn. We've got an amazing couple of days ahead, but before things get underway, I'd like to highlight just a few not to miss items. We have a host of great interactive experiences led by entrepreneurs, industry leaders, and subject matter experts. Most begin with a brief power talk and panel discussion before breaking out into facilitated mentoring and networking sessions. You can build and modify your schedule on the Summit website, summit.womenincloud.com. There are plenty of focused experiences, but the overall goal of the Digital Summit is to encourage and inspire you to develop your own North Star goals for 2021. This is something ambitious and personal that you can achieve through networking, mentorship, and collective power. So don't be afraid to think big or try something new. The digital workbook is an essential tool to help curate your path this week and includes prompting questions to get you started, as well as information on people that you should meet at the summit. There are pitch challenges and job and recruitment sessions. But remember, this isn't just an event, it's a movement. We are dedicated to creating more economic access for women in tech. So please check out our pledge at womenincloud.com/pledge and sign up to join us in our efforts. 2021 promises to be a very big year for Women in Cloud, and you can stay in touch with speakers and attendees after the summit through group chats, activity feeds, and other great interactive content on our WIC Digital Network. You'll find a link to join on the Summit webpage, or just visit this URL to join the community today. So thanks again for making time to be with us. We hope the WIC Digital Summit will help you make all of your goals for 2021 a reality. So let's get started.
That's right, Paul. Let's get started. To close out our morning session, we have the most amazing singer, Mary Milben. She's an actor, singer, performer. She's the world celebrated vocalist. She's a former White House appointee under George W. Bush. She's a global ambassador for Educate Africa, and she's a Women in Cloud member. She's an ambassador for cultural diplomacy, and she's performed for 3 presidents. So we're going to hear from her. She's got faith in God, love of family, advocate for American vets, troops, military families, and she's traveling through life with Johnny President. He's a Navy vet and intelligence communication specialist for the past 20 years. So let's turn it over to Mary Milben. This is going to be inspirational. Let's do this. Yes. Oh, I'm going to sing along, but I'll mute myself, I promise.
Thank you for welcoming me into your homes today. I am delighted to be a part of this year's Women in Cloud Digital Summit. You know, one of the joys of my life is traveling the world, sharing music, and inspiring women and girls. And to share the virtual stage today with powerhouse women and great men who support powerhouse women. It is an honor. You know, we're living in uncertain times. All across the world, we are facing incredible challenges as we navigate COVID. And while still in the middle of COVID, we enter this new year, 2021, with renewed hope and optimism for better days ahead. And so, in this special moment together today, I want to empower you. In times of great challenge and uncertainty, we are presented with the opportunity to innovate, to create, to go for our North Star goals. You know, that goal so big and lofty that every day you awake eager to spend time working towards its achievement. That goal that is not focused on the destination, but consumed with anticipation of its journey. My North Star goals, they rather became invaluable blessings. Serving as a White House presidential appointee to President George W. Bush, and then going on to sing for 3 consecutive U.S. presidents, to create on the Broadway stage and on concert stages across the world, to become my own CEO as a small business owner in America. Many would have doubted a little young African-American girl raised by a single mother could defy the odds to date. but oh, how they underestimate the resilience and strength of a woman. Women, the thread that nurtures, the voice that guides, the final and essential insert in the origin of creation. We play a significant role in the overall energy and sustainability of the world. Last week, we all witnessed history in America, watching the first woman take the oath of office as Vice President of the United States of America. It was a proud moment for women all across the world who have worked tirelessly to break glass ceilings. It was an inspiring moment for young girls who watched, now empowered to believe that anything is possible. For me, as a woman of color, I was deeply, deeply moved. And now we see young girls and women checking the box of first in the realm of technology, soaring through the clouds of uncharted tech territory, creating new codes of life, and closing the gaps of the digital divide. Today, we, women, are positioned in a unique moment in this digital age, a time where the world needs our collective power as women. Yes, that power to nurture and guide, but a more focused collective power to inspire, connect, and transform. Our life's journeys are ever-shaping testimonies of our survival. These are our treasures to inspire. I want to first challenge you to make time every day to inspire. We are our best encouragers, a woman empowering another woman. Behind your daily success is a lesson that can help another woman believe again, achieve, rebuild. Secondly, connect. Last year, I learned the importance of connection. We were created to be connected. It's a fundamental part of humanity. Connection is a healer. It is a teacher. Connection brings us into a loving place. When you're helping others, it oftentimes makes you feel better about yourself. It's a principle, it's a life hack, and it's scientifically proven. Connection and helping others shifts our focus to outside ourselves. It takes us out of our heads. It makes things okay again. Last year, COVID forced us into unnatural disconnect and isolation, and we are still experiencing some of that now. At times last year, it was tempting to want to close off or push away. It oddly seemed safer, especially when things felt overwhelming. But I learned that connection, it is the best solution to survival. Now, I carve out time every day just to connect. No agenda, no meeting invite, no alarm clock. Just enjoying the beauty in being connected. And now I have inherited a whole new world of family and friends because of it. I want to encourage you to connect. Share your lessons, share your ideas, share the love. In your sharing, you and those you invite into your space will be transformed. And that brings me to my last point. There is only one you. You are an original, a one-type code, formula, or equation that is someone's or something's solution. The world doesn't need another group of carbon copies. The world needs a movement of women leading and executing through an original, transformative power. To transform, you have to be willing to abandon tradition, be willing to choose unorthodox methods, even become a disruptor for good. I want to empower you to take on a transformative mentality in your daily living and as you govern. Let your voice, joined with the voices of women around the world, rise and inspire. Connect and share your testimony today, for your transparency can be the hope that someone needs. Transform your home, your community, wherever you influence, with the goal to be original. If there was a song to coin our time together today, it would be one of my favorites, The Impossible Dream from the Broadway musical Men of La Mancha. The words say, to dream the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable foe, to bear with unbearable sorrow, to run where the brave dare not go, to right the unrightable wrong, to love pure and chaste from afar, to try when your arms are too weary, to reach the unreachable star. This is my quest, to follow that star, no matter how hopeless, no matter how far, to fight for the right without question or pause, to be willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause. And I know if I'd only be true to this glorious quest, that my heart will lie peaceful and calm when I'm laid to my rest. And the world will be better for this. That one man, and I would translate and say that one woman, scorned and covered with scars, still strove with her last ounce of courage to reach the unreachable, reach the unreachable, reach the unreachable star. To every young girl and dynamic woman listening today, dream the impossible dream. Be the girl and the woman who strives with her last ounce of courage. Go and get your North Star. Reach the unreachable star. To dream the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable foe, to bear with unbearable sorrow, to run where the brave dare not go, to right the unrightable wrong, to love pure and chaste from afar, to try when your arms are too weary, to reach the unreachable star. This is my quest, to follow that star, no matter how hopeless, no matter how far, to fight for the right without question or pause, to be willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause. And I know if I'd only be true to this glorious quest, that my heart will lie peaceful and calm when I'm laid to my rest. And the world will be better for this, that one woman, scorned and covered with scars, still strove with her last ounce of courage to reach the unreachable
Oh, I don't know about you, but I had to get out the Kleenex because that really represents for me what this community is about. This is what makes us so unique here, that we connect with each other in this way so that we can achieve these dreams that we're committed to. So I can't wait to send you out. What a fantastic end to a glorious opening session. I look forward to seeing you out there in the networking. Go and join and jump around the tables and enjoy the afternoon program. And we'll see you tomorrow, later today and tomorrow. So go find some friends out there and do some networking. Thank you again for coming to the morning session. Let's go get that star. Let's get that star.